ISIS Audio presents an unabridged recording of Night Shadows, written by Eva Björg ægisdóttir, translated by Victoria Cribb, and read by Diana Croft. The moral right of the author has been asserted. This performance is owned by ISIS Audio. Part 1. The night before. Once the rain stopped, there was a risk someone would notice the smell. He made a phone call and said again that he wanted to move the body. It was making him increasingly anxious to think of it lying there, the decomposition advancing by the hour. The idea filled him with such anguish that he could barely sit still. It was turning out to be incredibly difficult to dispose of a corpse. He couldn't think of any way to carry it out to the car without being seen. The nights weren't dark enough yet to provide sufficient cover. And even when he'd got it into the back, where could he go? Where was he supposed to bury it? He had never travelled much outside town, and he had no idea where to find a suitably out-of-the-way spot, or even what the ground would be like. Was the soil deep enough, or would he hit rock? The last thing he wanted was for some farmer to dig up the body. Throwing it in the sea was one possibility, but there was always a risk it would wash up on a beach somewhere. He wasn't familiar with the currents. He had no idea whether the tide would be in or out right now. Last night he had gone to check on it. In his drunken state he had been curious to observe the changes in the colour and texture of the skin. He had pulled back the covers, unwrapped the plastic and run a finger along the bare arm. There was an undeniable thrill in seeing a dead person. The sense of unreality was so overwhelming that it made him dizzy and sent the blood rushing to his fingers and toes. For a moment, thinking he was going to faint, he put his head between his knees. Then, when the spell had passed, he poured the rest of the vodka down his throat and turned his attention to the face. He prized open the mouth, inspecting the tongue and teeth, then carefully pushed up the eyelids. Underneath them, the eyes were dull and fixed, covered in a white film. It was then that the fact of death became too real for him, and he stumbled away. When he got back outside, he thought he was going to throw up. But instead he fell to his knees, overcome by a fit of weeping. He couldn't stop picturing them.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?